I'm very burnt out on Wonder Woman, so I'm going to keep this brief. The new film Greenland is so inoffensive, I can't think of much to say. You don't need to watch it, don't worry. I'm not recommending it. So it's a disaster film about a meteorite hitting the Earth, or a bunch of meteorites, or a bunch of asteroids, or whatever you want to call them. Gerard Butler's in it. That's usually a sign that the film's going to be quite shit. A goofy action film, but not the good kind, more so the shit kind, the poorly written kind. I didn't expect much from this film, and I wouldn't have watched it if I didn't review films on YouTube. It looked like it was going to be a Roland Emmerich type of film, like Independence Day or 2012, shameless pandering, subpar blockbusters, and for the most part Greenland lived up to that. It was a little bit different. I think it tried to be a bit more realistic, a little bit more grounded. This actually made me like it less. It was quite boring. It didn't really deliver on the destruction. The action was minimal. Most of the asteroid stuff was in the background. The film focuses more on the character drama, which isn't very interesting because all the characters are pretty basic. It's just a stock suburban American family. There's not really any personality to them. The acting's fine. It's better than Wonder Woman. Initially, Gerard Butler has a slightly American accent, which he ditches for the rest of the film.
Okay, but you still call me when it's done, okay? Take her to the airbase and then leave her standing there alone when they turn her away.
I guess he just gave up. I'd rather he speak in his own accent, so good for him. Considering what you'd expect from a disaster film, this film's fairly uneventful. Most of it's just people talking and being in vehicles. It doesn't really have the scope of an end-of-the-world movie. It feels very small and inconsequential. This might be because it's trying to be a bit more grounded. The cinematography definitely has a bit more of a documentary feel compared to the usual disaster film. It's fairly grey, it's not oversaturated. I'm not saying there's anything special about the cinematography, it's still very serviceable, as is the rest of the film. Despite it trying to be a bit more realistic, it still has all the flaws of a usual cheesy action film. It still has corny dialogue and cliche story beats.
I'm not expecting your forgiveness, Dale. If I can get one thing right, I'm gonna get my son and my wife into that bunker.
It offers nothing new or original to the disaster movie genre, if that can even be called a genre. No way this would be released in theatres. You can tell this was made for a streaming service. It has nothing that remotely resembles a personality. Mainly it's just bland. So fucking bland. It's boring just to talk about. Even recording this is so mundane. And when you have characters that are this paper thin, the best thing you can do is not take yourself too seriously. Just be silly and goofy. Give us some dumb fun for an hour and 40 minutes. Some city destruction porn. I'd have been a bit more satisfied with that. But no, it goes for the more serious, let's be realistic and depict like things how they'd actually happen route. The pseudo-grounded route. There's minimal proper character development, and all of that is uninspired checklist storytelling. The marriage has been through a rocky road. The husband has to redeem himself, win back his father-in-law's approval. The kid's got a specific medical condition that makes him vulnerable. Most of the plot points and story beats feel like they're only happening because this is that time in the movie where this thing is supposed to happen. There's nothing organic about it. The way it builds up to the disaster at the start of the film feels very artificial and rushed. There's no tension, so that doesn't really help with the immersion. You're constantly reminded to the fact that you're watching a movie rather than enjoying an engrossing story. God, as if my voice wasn't monotone and boring enough. There's an intro scene at the start before the title card. That didn't need to be in the film. It didn't have any relevance to the rest of the story. There's a scene where a bunch of armed looters rob a convenience store. They're shooting the guns all over the place and telling everyone to get out. All they're really doing is scavenging supplies. Most people comply and just run out of the store, but for some reason they feel the need to shoot an old lady in a wheelchair who poses no threat to them whatsoever. Maybe they thought she was psychic. Do they not know how wheelchairs work? Wheel faster, bitch! Too slow, put a cap in her ass. They're clearly not just sadists because this guy lets the main characters go because it's a mother and son. All they wanted was for everyone to leave the store. I don't know why she was hiding, crawling around. Just put your hands up and walk out. So many things in this film just go south so quickly. There isn't really much care put into the structuring or pacing of each scene. Things just happen. There's no rhythm to it. It's kind of funny in that way. Everyone's just sat around the TV like normal. And 2 minutes later everyone's fucking freaking out.
No, coward! Babe, I'm sorry! No! I'm sorry, Dad!
Oh my god! We can't now, please!
Every marriage goes through shit. That don't mean you get to jump into another woman's bed. Take care of him.
I will.
I know you will, son.
Son? That didn't take long. You were just telling him off for cheating on your daughter, and then he gives you a 3-sentence apology, and then everything's fine, and he's your son?
I know you will, son.
I've said my piece now. That's all I have to say. It's not a film that inspires much conversation. A few good examples of realistic, grounded takes on worldwide disasters. Contagion, which is about a virus, which is pretty obvious. If you haven't seen that, check it out. That's very good, very realistic. No bullshit, no nonsense. Another good example is Children of Men. That's more of a dystopian sci-fi film, but I'd still say it has that worldwide catastrophe aspect to it, a global crisis. 28 Days Later is a good example of a grounded take on a zombie apocalypse. That's a very good film. Danny Boyle. I wouldn't want anyone wasting their time with Greenland. It's just a hollow film, utterly passable. It's not even got a good title. Greenland. No disrespect to the country or anything, but it's such a mundane name for a disaster film. A shit name for a film in general. Greenland. It's boring just to say.